See, I always believe that the prepaid payment instruments would be successful provided they have a very high value proposition to the customer. It has to provide them more than what the normal cash can do, or a normal bank checking format can do for him. So from that perspective, I think in the last 5-6 years, the prepaid instruments have evolved themselves. So as Dhaval was saying, like It's Cash, we at iCash also have about 65,000 points of presence through which we retail, IRCTC rail tickets, as Rahul was mentioning. So customers find it beneficial to use a prepaid instrument to purchase an IRCTC ticket. And similarly, in the last 1.5 years, if you see, M-wallets and e-wallets are becoming very popular for the money transfer perspective. Compared to a customer going to a bank, if he is going to any of these outlets that is nearby him, it provides him the convenience at a lower cost. And in addition to this, there are new and emerging themes. The popular ones are the travel card and the forex card. Then we have the scholar cards being launched by some of the players in the market, targeting the student and the educational institutions. And then we have, again there is a value proposition to the educational institution, cashless campus, safety, security, and as the volumes or the number of people consuming or having these cards increase, then the scope for bulk purchase and passing on discounts and benefits to the customers increases. And then we have, the very well established rewards program run by Sodexo and people like them. So I think, for any usage of cash, it can be made into prepaid, provided the prepaid operator thinks through what is the value proposition, how it can be made more efficient, and how it can be delivered in the most easily consumable format possible to the consumer. Then I think there is definitely a way forward, and it's going to last irrespective of any competition coming. Thanks.
Thanks, Ramu. Pradeep, taking off from that, I think we're all in complete agreement and there's unanimity about the potential and the great growth prospects for prepaid. If that being the case, what are the barriers that exist today to really explode this space?
Yeah, having seen a market for about, we've all been there in this for the last 10 years. In my view, personally, there are key 3 things which typically we need to work on as industry participants to work on these barriers. First and foremost is that, prepaid as an instrument should be equated to cash. That's the first thing that a customer is going to look at as to how easy or how convenient is it going to be, to use that particular instrument across any. So one is the acceptance, which is going to come in as part of, the equation to cash, which is that every merchant, every place, this prepaid instruments need to be accepted. The second is that the customer is not going to have a need to go and load unless and otherwise we are going to give them specific reasons, right? So we need to create specific reasons. And taking on from that is the second point, which is that today as an industry, we are completely fragmented. Right, so there is bank which focuses on, let's say, a forex card and a gift card in one aspect, and there is a general purpose proposition which typically mobile wallet companies and other non-bank prepaid players are playing, and then there are core businesses like e-commerces, like mutual funds and insurance and so on and so forth. Everybody typically talks about loyalty or a prepaid program which is for their own set of customers. If you look at from a consumer perspective, he is not going to be interested in having multiple different set of prepaid and being able to use it across multiple platforms. So there is a clear need for us to collaborate and try and create a single, simple proposition for a customer. And the best suited player to fill in this is the prepaid payment issuer who can work across the bank, across the business houses, and create a platform together to be able to provide that. And the third and most, part of the growth is the regulations, which we are typically saying that prepaid is equated to bank. In my mind, prepaid is the first instrument for somebody to be able to get into financial inclusion, right? That's the first product that you would give him to get into the digital world in terms of handling cash. And to that extent, in the Western economies or in any other parts of the world, if you look at it, the first instrument that he will get is a prepaid, and then he will migrate to a savings account, and then he will get credit. So to that extent, if we could work together with banks and create this kind of a proposition where everybody in the ecosystem is clearly convinced that this is the way we are going to migrate a customer, then we can get more cross-sell and upsell opportunities, and the industry as such will grow much better. Thanks.
Thanks, Pradeep. Deval, same question to you. Barriers for prepaid?
I couldn't agree more to Pradeep. I would like to emphasize on the first point, which is, which is kind of related to the parity with cash. Today, if I'm a consumer, I want to, let's say, up to 50,000 rupees. There's no questions asked. There's no KYC sought. But if I want a prepaid instrument, 10,000 rupees, give me your ID proof, give me your address proof. Why will a consumer give an address proof and an ID proof for a 10,000 limit when he can do a 50,000 rupee transaction using cash? So it's a dichotomy itself, whether are we promoting prepaid or are we not promoting prepaid. Number two, for any prepaid player, to operate, the entire infrastructure basis the current guidelines has to be set up by themselves. So if I have to have my acceptance points, I have to have my own acceptance merchant agreements, I have to deploy my own payment gateways, or I have to deploy my own terminals. So which causes a large amount of investment into infrastructure. And like any business, this is also a business. So, your gestation time for the business to break even and thereby to turn profitable is very long. So interoperability, is the key word here. So if there is interoperability which is allowed between, say, let's say PPIs, which is prepaid instrument issuers, and banks, or PPIs and the network schemes like Visa, Master, and RuPay, or even between PPI themselves, it will go a long way in development of the prepaid instrument. So getting the prepaid on par with cash is something I would like to state. Secondly, getting interoperability as a second factor. And thirdly is a more broader point, which is the general acceptance of electronic payments. Because if you today look at the electronic payments trend, you see the government is one of the largest user of electronic payments. So be it paying your tax online, being it paying your bills online, property taxes online, booking railway tickets, but they are the ones who never pay interchange. There is no MDR, so you are forced to charge the customer. Whereas if you pay cash, it is just a service across the counter. So in a trend, a cash which doesn't leave a trail, vis-a-vis an electronic instrument for which prepaid is a part leaves a trail, you have to do your KYC, and an issuer has to invest in the infrastructure, and then you don't have interoperability and there is no fee that the stakeholders pay. So I think if we are addressing the issue of barriers to growth, if all of these are combined and if there's a fair positive movement in converging this, then we'll see a great story in progression of the prepaid industry.
Thanks. Srini, both Pradeep and Deval talked about prepaid issuers, they talked about banks. There's a third leg to this that we read a lot about, telcos. What are the sort of partnership opportunities that can come about, or that brings about a greater convergence of the various players that mitigate some of these constraints but would lead to growth of prepaid? Partnership opportunities.
In the growth of payments in general, because Pradeep just mentioned about cash, and if you're really talking about taking cash and moving into the electronic mode, so logically I need to kind of have various players who will help get that money into an account. Now that account opening itself is usually a big challenge. So across the world, we've clearly seen that, as Rahul was just mentioning about telcos, for example, because of their distribution reach, they're suddenly able to kind of help get customer accounts and therefore make the overall process of prepaid instruments opening quite easy. And then the if I were to kind of look at the emerging markets, that's where the telcos are really making a big difference across the African continent. Africa is regarded to be the melting pot for mobile money, which is nothing but a prepaid kind of a scheme. So that's where we clearly see the operators coming in by bringing in the distribution reach. But if I were to kind of also move a little away and get to a developed world, it's not just operators. It depends on a specific context, and you will see that the various players who could really help. So in the context of the US, where Amex is kind of promoting, again, a prepaid instrument, this is called Bluebird, focused on the blue-collared workers, they've tied up with Walmart, again, trying to kind of help get the reach, instead of making through a cash, can I really enable and make the payment through a Bluebird card, which can also be accessed through the mobile channel. So, based on the context, the various players who are there who can help get the overall ecosystem going. And coming back to Africa or Latin America or even the Southern Asian context, I've clearly seen that with the operators and the banks coming together in certain regions, for example, Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is a classic example and a perfect example to kind of tell you that how cash has been overcome. So there's no Zimbabwean dollar anymore because of the hyperinflation. Everything is through the American dollar. Now there, in the last 2.5 years, after launching of a mobile money service, which is again nothing but a prepaid instrument, as it said, the largest operator and the banks have come together and enabled payments, enabled account openings and doing B2B, P2P or making for payments. Now 40% of Zimbabwe's economy is in 2.5 years flat is moving through the mobile channel. That is the power of collaboration and ensuring that you really find out reasons of how you can get cash out of the system.
Thanks, Srini. Pradeep, partnership opportunities?
Yeah. Coming to India, in my view, typically there are few changes that we need to do, because in collaboration, obviously there is a partnership model which can exist between banks and telcos and other retail players. But fundamentally, there are a few things that we need to look at. One is that the bank should start feeling that there is actually a market for prepaid which can be played very effectively if we partner with anybody who's got a reach, right? Be it a retail or be it telcos. And this is not going to be restricted only to a Forex or a travel card or a gift card, right? So there is a general purpose prepaid card which has got a clear market, and by joining forces with a retail player, you will be able to get there. And second thing is, from a retail perspective, they should not look at it from a customer as to who's going to own the customer, because it is a collaborative approach and both of us will be able to sell, cross-sell and upsell to the customer. From a banking perspective, the same customer, you can give him a loan, micro insurance and so on and so forth, many kind of bank assurance product. And so if you look at it more from a customer perspective and see as to how we will be able to bridge this gap of cash to digital money, I think there is a good story available, and we have a partnership model which is actually worked very well in various other countries. If you look at Africa, if you look at Middle East and other places, this is the model it works. Any retail or a non-bank player works as a program manager who brings in the platform, who brings in the retail reach, who brings in the expertise of putting together the business solutions. Bank gives the infrastructure, the framework for risk, the whole banking policies and so on and so forth, and that's how the model works. And I'm sure that we can do that in India as well, given that we have such a huge customer base.
Thanks, Pradeep. We've all been reading and hearing about financial inclusion, the recent focus that it's got under the Prime Minister last week. In view of that, Ramu, to you, how do you think prepaid can help deliver the financial inclusion objectives of this country?
See, a prepaid by the nature of the instrument and itself is a low-cost instrument. If you look at the cost of opening a bank account to that of opening a prepaid account, using an M-Wallet program, which is the most popular and the fastest growing one right now, is extremely low. So given the cost being so low and the requirement for physical infrastructure also being low, just having a good distribution network and a strong technology is sufficient to kickstart this program. To sustain, you need a lot more. And this, along with an assisted service delivery model, really helps in reaching out to the bottom of the pyramid. You know, specifically if you look at the urban, it's the migrant workers in the urban and the suburban area. When you go to the rural, of course, it's a different set of challenges. This helps in getting the penetration, reaching the masses. The other one is, given that this wallet can get cash, can hold cash, store cash, and help in transferring cash, you know, which is the primary application today most of the people want. Can I store cash? Can I send that cash somewhere? You know, as long as it serves that purpose, which anyway the M-Wallets or the prepaid programs can do, that is also going to help. And how much of that cash is going to be stored and be used is the smartness of the prepaid issuer and the organizer. So that's where the use case comes. What are the advantages that he or she is going to give to the consumer? I think these are the key aspects that I feel, you know, which are helping, where the prepaid is helping bring about financial inclusion in a great way. It's happening very fast, very aggressively. At least it started off in the metros and the suburban areas, to my knowledge, and we are seeing that in our business as well.
Thanks, Ramu. Srini, prepaid to drive financial inclusion objectives?
Sure. So I will kind of, forgetting financial inclusion for a moment, let's look at two aspects. One, as we mentioned earlier, what is the reason for having different instruments? So when I'm trying to get somebody into the organized financial services fold, we get them with prepaid. Then you really move for a little higher, the banking account savings, which is the debit, and then you move for a little higher and get loans, which is credit. Then maybe you'll evolve further and get into the investments mode. So there's a life cycle of a consumer that's there, and it's important to kind of understand at what stage a person is and have the right instrument and the right offering. That's one point. Point two is about, we mentioned about cash. If I were to kind of suck cash out and make it electronic, what happens is that by logical corollary, we'll have financial inclusion. So if the objective is financial inclusion, sometimes we're not able to get in because the use cases have not been thought about. Are we really focusing on the consumer? What are the requirements? I open a bank, a bank account, for example, in the context of financial inclusion, but what is that account doing? If I can focus on the consumer, and then say, hey, this is a migrant worker, they need money to transfer from point A to point B, then they need to pay for their bills, they need to recharge their account, and then they need to pay for goods and services. Now, if I were to kind of really link this up and ensure that, and more importantly, it should be safe and convenient. If I were to kind of bring in the safety aspect, which cash is not, then suddenly there'll be a usage that people kind of will look at. And I just gave an example of Zimbabwe. We can talk about multiple countries world over. So suddenly people start getting into the organized financial services mode. I can then look at having data by which I can start giving better services to these consumers whom I could never have reached out before. So that's in the context of why a prepaid. Second thing, which is important also, is to kind of look at it and say that the easiest and the most economical and viable way to offer today for the financially excluded is a prepaid, because the cost of maintenance, the cost of operations of a prepaid is far lower than a traditional core banking kind of a thought process. So both of these combined, I believe that the prepaid is the best way to kind of really look and start and really get people into the financial services framework.
Thanks, Srini. Logical place to move on to the next question, which is, and I'll put this to Deval, how can prepaid be used, or how effective can prepaid be for transmission of government benefits?
In fact, let me cite a few examples. In fact, in many countries, which are what we call as emerging economies like Brazil, Mexico, Indonesia, in many of these countries, actually government subsidies was responsible for the growth of prepaid. So, because, as Ramu said earlier, that, prepaid instruments are usually structured around the use factor and the convenience it offers to its consumers. So in Brazil, there's an act which is the Food Regulation Act, which allows every workers to receive their meal subsidy. It's a compulsory part of the regulation. This entire meal subsidy is disbursed on a prepaid instrument. They were disbursing it in cash earlier. Leakage in the system was close to 48%. They decided that, hey, this leakage is something that can't be monitored. It's not something that is delivering efficiency. So let's use another alternate mechanism. Bank account, like again one of my fellow panelists said, to open a core banking account is fairly expensive. It's in the range of 1,500 rupees, if I'm not mistaken, if my data says right, to open a single core banking account in a system, plus your annual maintenance. Whereas a prepaid account is fractional. It's less than 5% of that core banking account cost if you're talking from a system perspective. In the morning, one of our fellow panelists said that even 3.5 years back, when close to 35 million accounts were opened up, only 2 million accounts are active, balance are all dormant. So look at the cost economics of operating a bank account versus operating a prepaid account. The objective of any government disbursal scheme, so let's say in Indian context, if we take the example of NREGA, which is a common wage distribution scheme. Now NREGA, if you're looking at 1,500 rupees, which is typically the average monthly disbursement that happens in the NREGA payment, why can't it be disbursed on a prepaid instrument? Instead of being disbursed in cash, where there is definitely leakage in the system. In fact, we have many people, known data is available in states, several sting operations done, which shows that the money has completely been misutilized. At least when it's a prepaid instrument which is authenticated with KYC of a customer, you are sure that there is a trail of money which is going to be left behind. So you could easily have like a NREGA benefit being loaded onto a prepaid card. The consumer has the flexibility to go to any ATM and withdraw his money. The consumer has the flexibility to go to any supermarket, or let's say a farm market, or a farmer's mandi, which happens on a monthly basis, to go and use his prepaid instrument there. Similarly, even your food subsidy, right? When we talk about food subsidy bills and the Right to Food Act, which kind of didn't go through in the whole hog, the entire wage bill of this entire disbursement is close to 1 lakh crores. I mean, and official government data is talking about 40-45% leakage. Now, the cost of operating a prepaid instrument, if we actually see it, because this is typically a transactional based payment, a family going to a kirana shop once in a month to buy his purchases. So it's purely a payment application. So all these have a great application or a use case of being transferred onto prepaid. And if this is an adoption, and if we have a prepaid account which is nothing but powered by an account which is powered by a bank and a non-bank together, being put on par with a core banking account, it can really help and drive financial inclusion in a very, very long, in a very long way. And subsidies could be a great way to kickstart this entire drive in this country, which is the need of the hour.
Thanks, Deval. Pradeep, to you. Deval ended off by saying that benefits can really help accelerate it and act as a catalyst for the usage of prepaid. Your views?
Yeah, well, I completely agree with what Deval had said. Currently as well, there are two modes in which these EBT, DBT money is primarily being given, which is typically in through a financial inclusion drive. You open a bank account and then you try and push this money into it, or you just hand it over as cash to the consumer. But traditionally, if you look at it from a consumer perspective, what he does is that he receives that $1,500 and then he's going to go to the nearest ATM or to the nearest bank branch and take the cash out, and then he is going to use it for his day-to-day living. So essentially, the costlier mechanism of opening a bank account and trying to put this money into it is not going to yield anything, because the money is not going to stay in overnight as well, right? And that's where the prepaid kind of fits in the bill, because how the prepaid is going to differentiate itself is that, the prepaid player will then go into the, nearest village, district or taluk or whatever it is, and then he's going to create an acceptance network where the money is going to be accepted on a, digital mode. And that's really when there is going to be some movement of money which is on the electronic mode which is going to happen, and plus there is going to be some opportunity for revenue generation which will happen. And hence, I feel that prepaid is best fit for the EBT, DBT kind of a play as compared to any other mode which is currently in operation today. Thanks.
Thanks, Pradeep. Okay, we've covered a lot of space, from talking about what are the different types of prepaid instruments to what are the use cases for it, what are the constraints, can it help financial inclusion, what about benefits transfers. There's one point that we need to end up with, and that really is that now when the RBI is talking about payment banks, what does the new conversation and guidelines for payment banks have to do with, and how does it affect prepaid, or how does prepaid live with these payment banking guidelines? Ramu, to you first.
Thanks, yeah. So, my view on this particular point is that almost all prepaid instruments would want to become a payment bank, Payment bank is a bank, and payment bank is something, it's a first step towards a bank. So there's no doubt that there would be any PPI sitting in this room saying, I don't want to become a payment bank. That's aspirational. But, there is also going to be something called as a reality a few months down the line or a year down the line. But what is exactly the regulator trying to do here? The regulator is trying to create an ecosystem where initially the financial inclusion starts, or I would say, rather than using the word financial inclusion, it's becoming overused word. Prepaid instruments can be the alternative for cash. It clearly, the success of the program will depend upon the use case, the technology, the innovation, and how effective they are, the program manager or operator is able to target that market segment. It's primarily going to be transactional in nature, this particular market. Those who are able to move from these transactions to more of a relationship base and a lifetime value of a customer, who are able to understand that, can move towards a payment bank model. So there primarily, what is it? Can they sustain only through transactions? Maybe, but I think the primary opportunity is going to be to get those who are not properly banked by the current banks. Primarily, why are the current banks not able to focus on them? Because very dispersed, not sufficient amount. The current bank, the universal banks' operating costs are very high. So the payment banks will have to be low-cost banks, have a very clear understanding of who they want to target and which geography. It can't be universal, in my opinion. I'm not sure if anybody else has got a better idea on that. Has to be localized, specific target markets, industry segments, and work out customized solutions and products for that. And it's going to be low volume, targeting the small businesses, self-employed, and people are primary, and other than the small businesses and self-employed, it's going to be used for benefit transfers in a big way. And this is how the payments bank are going to evolve. And as the customer and the payment bank start getting better and better, I think they would move to the universal bank. So I think the clear demarcation and segmentation is going to happen and will have to happen. And there is scope for all of them to coexist.
Thank you, Ramu. Pradeep, you can end it off and round it up by saying, by talking about future for prepaid cards in light of proposed payment banking guidelines.
Yeah. Let me do some crystal ball gazing here while the discussions are still on in what is the payment bank and how it is going to happen and what is going to be the demarcation. But fundamentally, I feel that prepaid will be the go-to product for even the payment bank which is going to come into the business, because if you're going to look at any other mode of reaching out to the customer as another payment instrument, it's going to become even more costlier, and that's going to push the ROI that much more for the payment banks as well. So prepaid insofar as the nature of the product is concerned, it's not going to change. It's just that, the entity which is going to drive it is now being called as a payment bank. That's one. And second thing is that apart from payment bank, which is primarily going to look at financial inclusion as the core objective, or probably reaching out to a customer who is kind of unbanked or underbanked or whoever it is, there are other use cases which the industry can work with, like for instance, giving out a loan onto a prepaid instrument or giving out an insurance benefit onto a prepaid instrument and so on and so forth. That kind of collaborative approach is still going to be available, and to that extent prepaid is going to lead the way as far as these industries are concerned. And I feel that prepaid is here for long to stay, and it's just that there is going to be some metamorphosis that will happen in terms of identifying ourselves further and better. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, that ends this panel discussion. I think the format asks for questions. So audience questions, if any. And if you can just specify who you'd like to answer the question.
Yeah, my question is to Deval. It's more centered around economics. Now, one part of the economics is, what is your cost of, I'm assuming this is a delivery based on the retailer network or whatever channel you use. So your cost of that merchant or retailer acquisition, your thoughts on that. Second, the success of this model also relies on the ROI of that retailer. So how do you think about the ROI of that retailer? And third is, at what stage do you think this business will move towards branding, where this you end up commanding pricing power, whether it is for remittances or the subvention model?
Okay, so I'll try and answer it in bits. First and foremost, the retailer economics, like I remember when we started prepaid in India, the concept was very, very new. I think the biggest challenge was to get the retailer on board. At one point of time, we were passing on close to 7.5% of our cost purely to the retailer. So our distribution costs kind of were very high. Over the years, as we've seen the adoption move up, and as we've seen the consumer acceptance and the retailer acceptance happening, the costs have come down substantially. So now what the retailer looks at is the following, is what is the applications your product is moving? What is the kind of customer footfalls that are coming because of the unique application of your product? Thirdly, how you as a prepaid card provider or a prepaid service provider, what is the kind of services that you're offering? So it's a combination of these three. So ultimately the retailer will look at an ROI, which is even like any of us would look at an ROI, a retailer would look at an ROI. So if we are, and now what's happening is that at ItzCash, through our various products that we have, which are, some of which are regulated and some of which are non-regulated, we are able to offer a high ROI to the retailer as well. It's very similar to your telecom analogy, right? You have a retailer who's selling a prepaid SIM card connection, or who's selling a postpaid connection. Now that becomes his bread and butter. And then you have your prepaid wallets, which are kind of, as an add-on service, which becomes as a customer retention tool or an adding up on an ROI tool. So his investment is kind of fixed at the initial stage. He starts getting in footfalls, and then he starts building up scale. And as you build up scale, the cost of distribution really comes down. I hope I've addressed first two parts of your question. The third part is branding. Branding is extremely critical. I think people really, it's actually critical even now. So, people really associate the brand of the service provider with whom they are going to do a transaction with. Because ultimately there are two critical factors. A, who is the retailer who is providing me the service, and B, which is the brand who is providing me the service. There at least we see there is a major investment that has to be done by everybody. Like Visa and MasterCard or RuPay, they typically work in the back end. Similarly here, I would say a prepaid issuer or prepaid operator provides all the services right from acquiring to fulfillment to settlement. So while it typically acts as your network partner, but it has to be as trusted, in the mind of the consumer, so that he says that when I'm going to give my money, this becomes very critical. So for example, a significant amount of our money, I cannot disclose it, but significant amount of money at ItzCash we spend on marketing. And this includes things like consumer connect initiatives. These include initiatives like retailer education. It also includes initiatives like consumer education. It includes branding at the retail outlets, and also certain awareness campaigns which kind of help all these stakeholders to buy into the whole concept.
Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Okay, sorry, that's one last question. I think the gentleman in the center had put it up for his hand up first. Or
Hi, my name is Udit Sharma. I again have a question for Deval. Deval, you mentioned that there's a benefit in linking the government subsidies to PPI instruments like mobile wallets. In the previous panel, we were discussing Jan Dhan Yojana, and there have been talks about linking government subsidies to Jan Dhan Yojana accounts as well. So, do you see those two ideas as mutually exclusive, or are there advantages to one over the other?
If banks can take, maybe Rahul can, collaborate with me on this, but if banks can take a prepaid account as a light bank account or a debit light account, as a part of the financial inclusion targets, because the objective of the government is to disburse money effectively, is to help people introduced into the banking system, to help them get insurance and other investment products, and we think that prepaid could be a great starting point. A prepaid, which is a debit light account, could be a great starting point. And the cost of operating will be very normal. And unlike what Mr. Titus said 3.5 years back, that, out of 35 million accounts opened, 33 million are lying dormant, we will not run that risk of having those kind of dormancy into the system. So I think if there can be a collaboration between banks, non-banks, and there's a thought process with the government to integrate these things together, I think it's a brilliant case in point.
I want to qualify my answer because I don't know the exact regulation here. But the question really is can you upload government benefits into a prepaid as opposed to a savings bank account? And fundamentally the difference between the two is that one is earning interest for the consumer, the account holder, and one isn't. So are there benefits, or in terms, does it make it a lot simpler for a lot of people to be able to include prepaid accounts as under the larger financial inclusion schemes? That's one part. The second part is, what is the regulator's view and the government's view on that? And I think that is what we need to address. I personally am at this point of time not qualified to comment that, so I will withhold my comment on that. But I've just framed it for you.
Sure. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you to all my co-panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I request you all to kindly pose for a quick picture before leaving the stage. We have our photographer ready.